video, we're going to continue from where we left off in my last video, having a PI team baseline capacity. So we're going to be using case studies to give different scenarios for each of these 5 sprints we have in our PI, right? As you all recall, our PI is going to be, for this PI is going to go from January the 4th to March the 14th, right? And we all agreed we came up with this 400 baseline capacity, but with the case studies, which I already have prepared, we're going to use that to determine what our team true actual capacity for our PI, so that we can able to know how to plan for our workload as we continue to plan for sprint to sprint in our PI planning. Welcome back to Aisha Scrum. I'm very happy to have you all today. For my subscribers and for my new subscriber, I welcome you all. I truly appreciate you all taking your time and watching my video. So now let's get into it. So before we go in further, so I just want to show you all the case studies I have for this video. And by the way, at work, I know for a lot of people have been sending me email like, how do you go about this capacity planner, and how do you determine, do you have to follow through all these steps, or how do you go about all of this? Do you really have to do a buffer? And I've been getting a lot of questions about capacity planner. But to be honest, I will highly encourage you all to follow your company policy. I mean this because I've worked for different companies and I've never used capacity planner the same. Everyone have their own way and they want their own processes in place, and they always will want you, the Scrum Master, to also learn their own process. Of course, we'll always have our basic knowledge in Agile and Scrum that do not change, but just understand your company own way on how they want you all to plan your capacity planner for your PI planning. So I just have this different scenario here because at work, your development team will basically provide you with all of this information. So I'm using these case studies for educational purposes only, and just giving like different scenarios and different samples and how you can come up with your actual team available capacity for a particular PI. And as I was told you all from my last video, this capacity planner is not fixed, right? Things can change prior to PI planning, during PI planning, and throughout the duration of the PI, right? Because we know like sometimes you can plan for work this way, but in Agile, we all know that things can continue to change, right? Depending on what the particular team members you are working on and the project you're working on and everything else. So just be very open-minded as you are doing your capacity planner. And also don't be frustrated if little things change, you know. All right, so now I have like different scenario for my sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3, and sprint 4, and sprint 5. Because this the example we're giving here, we're saying that we have 5 sprints in this particular PI. And that's why I have 5 different scenarios. I've already went on and placed in the dates for each of the sprints. I have my dates range from January the 4th to 17th. We're basing this off on 2-week sprints, meaning 10 days of working. And I'm going back to my formula of 1 day equal 1 story points. All right, so now looking at my case studies, I have here that for sprint 1, I have 3 developers that are taking 2 days off. We have a Thanksgiving holiday, and 1 QA is taking 3 days vacation. And as you all recall, I just gonna have to come under my holiday and my PTO. And since we have Thanksgiving holiday, and I know for Thanksgiving holiday are people in the United States, so then I just go to my onshore people and I put 1 for all my onshore people. And if you don't understand the difference between all of this, please refer back to my baseline capacity for Scrum Team, because I explain all of that in detail and how I came up with all of this data. So for all my onshore people, I've taken the day off for them. And now I'm going to work on the 3 developers that have 2 days off. So let's just assume we have developer A that are offshore. They have a 1 day off. I go in and put 1 day off. And I have another this developer that have another day off plus the holiday. And this developer is the other one that have 1 day off plus the holiday. So, oh, actually it says that. So now let me go on and put in the 2 days off for this developer, 3 developers that have the 2 days off. And for me to do that, so now let me go on and I take these 3 developers, they have 2 days off. So let me go in and take 2 days off for these 3 developers. So then I'll come here at the bottom and I'll put that they are onshore developers. So we already have 1 day off ready for them. And then I'll just go on. It says they have 2 days off. And I'll go under the holiday and PTO and just give them all these people 3. Right? I'm giving them 3 because we have the Thanksgiving holiday plus the 2 day off they have. So now they have 3 day out of the sprints. And then the next thing I have is 2 developer that took the 2 day off. The next thing I have is we have the Thanksgiving holiday, which I already took out for the onshore people. And I have 1 QA that's taking 3 days vacation. So then I go under my QA tab. I already see the queue. I already have 1 day off for the Thanksgiving, plus the 3 days, so that will now be 4 days. So then I just delete that 1 and I put 4. So after taking out all the day off, vacation, and holidays for sprint 1, for this PI for sprint 1, that's going to be from January the 4th to January 17th, we have 63 story points available for this sprint. We have 63 story points for 10 members in the team. So now let's go to sprint 2. So when I come to sprint 2, I have still my baseline data, right? I'm going to look at my scenario that I have in here. I have that we have 2 developers that are taking 1 day off, 1 QA taking 2 days off. So first, let's do the first one, right? 2 developer is taking 1 day off. Then I'll just go to the developer that's taking 1 day off. 1 developer, 1 developer. So 2 developers are taking 1 day off, right? 2 developers are taking 1 day off, and I put the 1 day off for these 2 developers. And then I come to, we have both one, I have to zoom it slide. 2 developers are taking 1 day off each. We have both onshore and offshore holiday for Christmas holiday. So we're assuming that then, although we have these 2 developers that are taking 1 day off each, but then again, everyone have off because we have the Christmas holiday. Then I have to go in and place in 1 day for everyone that have for this vacation or holiday. Go to 1 for everyone. I put 1 for everyone for this holiday. And for these 2 people, I'm going to give them 2 because 1 day off that they are planning to take and the 1 day off for the holiday. So they will have 2. Become 1 and I have 1. So now for this particular sprint, we also have 68. Oh, wow. That's 63. So for the availability for these 10 team members for this sprint is 68. And then we come to the sprint 3. I'll do the same for sprint 3, and I look for the 2 developer that's taking 1 day off, right? Again, 1 QA taking 2 days off, and we have only offshore holiday. So what I will do first is basically go to the sprint 3 and take the 2 developer that's taking off. And just for me to say this right, because sometimes at work too, the developers will give you the dates that they are off. I know I'm using this scenario like 1 developer, 2 developer, but at work they will definitely tell you, or the person will tell you for how long they'll be out, the dates, and when will they be gone, and when are they going to be coming back. So then you can use that date. So that's why I always like to start with the dates first at the top. Because when I'm given the dates, then it's easy for me to just go to that sprint and add those data. And so just say for this example, for this sprint 3, I have this scenario here that we have 2 developers taking 1 day off. So then I go back to a 2 developer that's taking 1 day off. I give them 1 day each. Then I go back to my data. It's saying 1 QA is taking 2 days off. Then I go to the QA person and I give the QA 2 days off. And then I come back to, we only have only offshore holiday. So we have only offshore holidays. So then I go up to my offshore people, 1, 2, 3. So we only have 3 people that are outside the United States. So then I go to that column. I give them 1 day off for their holiday because they'll be out for that time. So now we now have this sprint. This is our available story points, because as I'm entering the data, is giving me the available story points. And it's subtracting it from our baseline capacity that we did from the previous one. Now come to my sprint 4, I will do the same thing and looking back to the dates, right? The date is now different, like end of the month. Now go back to the sprint 4. We have 1 developer that will be leaving for maternity leave. So basically, this person is going to be gone for a while. And I see for the rest of the PI, like after sprint 3, basically I'm losing a developer. And this is something that is very important for you to communicate with leadership, with your team members. So hopefully they can get a replacement for this person, or maybe if anyone else can come in and help fill in that shoe, right? Because already for this PI alone, this particular developer would be gone for like a month, right? Because we have 2 weeks in a sprint and 2 weeks here for sprint 4 and sprint 5. So then automatically I'm going to go to my calendar and include that, oh, I have a developer that will be gone for maternity leave, and I'll put that off for the duration of the remaining of the sprint. But it's also important to communicate this with leadership for sure. So then I'm going to just go into 1 developer and I'm just going to put that this person will be out for the duration of the sprint. And if they're going to be out for the duration of the sprint, I'm just going to put 2, right? And as soon as I put the 8, let's say this developer is going to be out now for duration of the sprint, right? As this person is going to be going for maternity leave. And then I come to my under holiday and PTO, I'm going to put 8 in there. As soon as I hit 8 and I hit enter, it goes 0. So it's accounting 0 of their work, because why? This person is not going to be available. Then you go under to your overall available capacity for this sprint 4, it's just reduce it, take out the whole 8 out of the overall title. Then I will ensure I do the same thing too for sprint 5, right? Because I know this person will be gone for the duration of the PI for the last 2 sprints. I'll go in also, I put 8. When I put in the 8, they also show 0s. So at least I already take away this team member time away. And when I gain someone new, then I'm going to add that person in. And then, of course, we'll now take out this particular person out. And then we can now account for that person's data. But then again, with that person, there'll be knowledge transfer needed, right? And when it comes to the knowledge transfer, I have to be cautious to how much percentage I will have them for delivery over like their PTO and trainings and all of that, because we also have to account for that time. The team member will be doing trainings and holiday trainings and stuff. So we have that 1 maternity developer going for maternity leave, and we have 3 developer taking day off, right? Go into sprint 4 and go back to the developer. So they're all taking 1 day off each. So I'm just going to go to each of those 3 developers and put the 1 day off each. And when I go back to the board, it's saying I have 2 QA taking day off each and tech lead vacation. So my tech lead is also going on vacation, right? So for this sprint 4 already, I can already see like a lot of issue, a lot of things that I have to escalate, like a lot of early plannings and a lot of things that I have to like speak about in before PI planning, during PI planning, to ensure that we are planning accordingly. Either we bring in someone else that can help us, or like we discuss how we can plan our workload that won't affect the overall team's performance and all of that, right? So with my tech lead, they will also be gone for the whole vacation for sprint 4. Then I have to also put the same thing of 8, right? And the QA, 2 QA taking day off. So then I go back to the QA. Go back here and I put 1 for this QA. 1 for this keyword. And the tech lead, I gave the tech lead also 8 because then it counted only 0 points because this tech lead will not be available for sprint 4. And I have this one that's going on maternity leave too, and it gave them 0. And everyone else that do not have off, it's also like spaced out. So after taking out all the holidays and vacation and the maternity leave PTO, I'm left with 59 story points for sprint 4. And then now let's look at sprint 5. And when I look at sprint 5, I have 1 there with maternity leave, which we already took that out already, right? And 2 developers taking a day off, right? 2 of them taking a 1 day off, and 1 onshore and 1 offshore holiday. So this last sprint, we have holidays for people that are in the United States and outside the United States. And I also have 2 developers taking a day off each. So that I go to the space column, the 2 developers are taking the day off each. I'll put 1 and 1. And now I have to go through each column and ensure that I take out 1 day each for the holidays that we have onshore and offshore holiday. And I'm just going to put that for everyone, just accounts for all of the holidays since people won't be available. And with these people, I'm going to give them 2 because they're taking 1 day off plus the holiday. And I have the 1. It's already going to leave that 8 because I know that that particular developer is going to be on maternity leave. So now in my capacity planner, I now have my in my capacity planner, I now have my 61 available story points for this PI. I also now have 59 available for this PI and 73 available for this PI. I mean, I now have, and I now have in my available capacity for each sprint. I have for sprint 1, I have a total of 63 right now. After taking out my vacation, PTO, and holiday, I have 63 story points available. And then I come to sprint 2, they have 68 story points available. And since sprint 3, I have 73 story points available. And then sprint 4 is even lower at 59 and 61 for sprint 5 after taking out the vacation and holiday. But let's say now let's now look at the workload, right? So let's just assume that we have a tech lead that's also doing a lot of support for another team, right? And basically, they are tech lead in our team. They also have another team too that they are supporting, and they're dedicating some of their time in that. And it takes out like 30% of their work time they dedicated to supporting another team. In that case, I have to go there. And I'll have to communicate first with the tech lead just to ask them, okay, for this PI, how many percentage of your time are you dedicating to our team, you know? And they're like, oh, I'm 100% in, I'm going to be doing everything with the team. Or, oh no, I'm supporting your team and I'm also supporting another team. And if that's the case, then I'll ask them, okay, roughly what's the estimate percentage you'll be supporting another team? And they will tell me, then I'll come on that support. I'll put like, let's say, for example, this tech lead tells me that they'll be supporting another team for 30%. So then I come and put 3 for my tech lead, just to ensure that that's taken out. And as soon as I take out the 3, it reflects on the Excel spreadsheet. And I go to each space and I put 3 for each of those columns for the tech lead for the whole PI, because my question is asking for the whole PI and not just for sprints. And sometimes too, you plan all of this in the PI planning, and then later on the tech lead will be like, oh, by the way, they don't need me anymore. And if the team doesn't need you anymore, they don't need the tech lead anymore, and that's when you also come back to your capacity planner and readjust. Because then you have to ensure you reflect the true availability for your tech lead so that you can basically have the right data. So of course, then when you go back to your retrospective for the PI, end of the PI, you'll talk about how everything happened, right? And what are things you did to readjust to meet all the constant changes that continue to happen in your team or in your environment. So that's that. So now we've taken that for the training and support. And if also, like, for example, so if your team are working on a new project and all the whole team member have to go for a 1-week training, you still have to then come here and literally take out like 4 days each for each of that column. You just give it 4 since they'll be out for the whole week, right? The reason why I say 4 and not 5, because we're already giving them 20%, which is two story points for miscellaneous things. And if they're going to be gone for the whole week, you just come in there and put 4. So as soon as you take 4, that's taking them out for that 1 week. And then the next week, they'll now have each 4 story points to complete for a particular sprint. And so with that said, now that we're done with having our holiday put in, vacation put in, maternity leave, and all of that. So now let's discuss workload, right? So it's very important when it comes to PI planning, when your team is actually planning to take your workload in PI planning, right? It's always advised, I've also do a lot of research on this, looking at SAFe. They always advise that for the first 2 sprints, like the best practice, your team can always commit like at full capacity, right? Because we all know like when you're doing your PI planning, like from my experience, we'll do PI planning like on a Monday and a Tuesday, and then the Wednesday will be our first sprint. And the first sprint for that particular PI, which is exactly how I did these dates also, because January the 4th is the Wednesday. And most of this work that's going to be starting in January the 4th, you should plan it at full, because you already know that, okay, there's not going to be much changes that are going to be happening, right? So I will always plan for this first PI. I will always plan for this first sprint at full capacity. And then, of course, if we have to take out buffer too, I will take out like 10% buffer. And if you all do not know how to take out buffer, I will highly encourage you to watch that buffer video so you can know how to take out buffer. And then, based on that, then we will now get our, let's say our workload will now be 52 after taking out 10% buffer. Then during PI planning, as we are splitting our stories and also splitting our features, putting them in different sprints. For sprint 1, we'll now plan, estimate work, or take up workload towards 60 story points. And for sprint 2, we will also do the same, right? We'll plan at least 95% capacity, if not maybe 100%, because this 4-2 sprint is very important, right? Because then if there's any more major changes that will happen, we still have room to always go back and change. But then my team, after taking our buffer, if we have to take our buffer 10% out of the 65, then we'll now take our workload. But it's very important for me, like when it comes to sprints 3, 4, and 5, we do not commit to like at 100% capacity, right? So why is that, right? We all know like in Agile, like we are open for change. And when we do like our sprint review from our end user or from the stakeholders, and we'll get like some kind of feedback, right? And with that feedback, usually the product owner will go back and reorder the product backlog and reprioritize and determine what we can now take the workload for the next sprint. Although we can still ensure that as we are planning for the next sprint, we're going to be planning workload towards our planned capacity, right? But it's still like not very visible for you to have a detailed planned backlog or detailed planned sprint for sprint 3, 4, and 5, right? You can have half of some of it's already planned, right? I know like my manager, one of my the SAFe leader manager that I usually work with, they've always stated that for the first 2 sprints, you should plan at full capacity. And for your sprint 3, at least 75%. And for sprint 4, 50%. And your last sprint, basically 20% or 30%. Because the goal is as we continue to work together, as we're getting all this feedback and as we are readjusting, then we can know exactly how sprint 4 and 5 will look like. And if your company also do like IP sprints, like innovation and planning, and usually I know for all the company I've worked for, if we have like 6 sprints in a PI, usually like the 5 sprints will be for delivery. And the last sprint, which is going to be the sprint 6, which is for innovation and planning, we do not commit to anything. We don't even account for it in our capacity planning. I've also worked for a company that I know that we have an IP sprint and they will still plan for like work for that sprint. But I know that's an anti-pattern, right? But for the IP sprint, my company, for most companies I've worked with, that was SAFe, we did not plan for the IP sprints. We left our IP sprints blank, basically nothing planned for that IP sprints. Because the goal is for us to like work on tech debt item and also use some of that time to plan for our next PI and also do a lot of our system demo, inspect and adapt. We'll do a lot of that during the IP sprint itself. So just for us to basically look back at everything with our objective and see how we worked from sprint 1 all the way to sprint 5. But don't be surprised till you go to your company, they will also still plan at full capacity for the 6th sprint. So that's why I have only 5 sprints in my board. No, but if your company does 6 sprints, like plan for full 6 sprints, and your IP sprint, they plan at full capacity, you should definitely talk about the best practices of not having fully planned for IP sprints. But at the same time, too, you have to like do what your company is asking you to do, for sure. So that's about PI planning and workload you can take for PI planning, right? Just know that capacity planning is one thing, and I know it's heavily practiced in safe environment. This is one thing that they'll always want from a Scrum Master, to ensure that there's a capacity planner in place. And for companies that I've worked for that were not safe, we only use capacity planner basically just to get the baseline for our team, just to kickstart our team. Then as our team are completing our sprints, we go to our true data of the velocity itself. So then we start using our average velocity. And although I will still use the capacity planning just to have it in place, I've also sometimes been in a position where I have to use both, right? Be in the middle between a capacity planner and a velocity. I plan to show you all that maybe later on in my next video. How can you balance your team average velocity and your team available capacity when you use the baseline formula of 1 day equals 1 story point. And if you missed my last video on capacity planning for the baseline PI planning, you should definitely refresh to that. And I have this whole playlist on this capacity planning. If you missed that, you should definitely watch that. And if you've been finding my content valuable, like and subscribe to my channel. I truly appreciate you all for watching. And if you are interested in mentorship, do not hesitate to email me at admin@AishaScrumTech.com. Thank you all for watching this series. And by the way, our total capacity for this PI, I know sometimes RT might ask, oh, what is your total capacity for the PI? Our total capacity for this PI, after taking out everything and all the PTO, holiday, training, support, it's 309 story points. So 309 story points. So just in case people are wondering, coming from our baseline, right, that's a huge jump from 400 to 309. So just in case people are wondering, okay, so now what's the overall PI capacity? The overall PI capacity is 309 after doing all of our calculations. Thank you all for watching my video, and see you all again in my next video. Have a wonderful one, everyone.